Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you how Russell Wilson stole the show in Seattle yesterday.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you what last night means for Clayton Kershaw's legacy. Speak for yourself starts right now.
Nothing. It means nothing.
It means everything.
Game 7 means everything. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NFL analyst Tony Gonzalez and Michael Vick. Let's start in Seattle, where the Seahawks bested the Texans 41-38 in an epic shootout yesterday. Deshaun Watson was incredible, throwing for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but Russell Wilson was probably even better with 450 yards and 4 touchdowns of his own. Here are the quarterbacks after the game.
Deshaun Watson's special. I mean, go ahead and give him the Rookie of the Year. He's a great player. You love watching him.
Live and learn from it, So watch the film, correct the mistakes, and then get back on track.
All right, Cowherd, who were you more impressed with yesterday, Deshaun or Russ?
Deshaun, because I know Russ is good. To go into Seattle, that defense, that pressure, I bet you Russell Wilson's one of the players that he really watches and likes. A little bit of an idol thing. It's like, that's a star. You go in and you're facing Sherman and Bennett and Chancellor, and I was blown away by it. And like when I was joking earlier, if I go to a U2 concert, I know it's good. But if I went to a concert of a no-name band and he sounded like U2, I'd be like, I watched that game yesterday and I sat there and I thought, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but that could be the Super Bowl. Like those rosters, this was how, that was as good a football game as I've seen from a young quarterback, including Wentz, in years.
It was incredible. I don't want to take anything away from either side or either quarterback, but I just thought Russell Wilson was just a little bit more. I think the guy had no running game.
None.
No running game. Every time they ran the ball, I was like, are you crazy? And his defense, the Legion of Boom, just got completely destroyed. Russell Wilson went into this season with guys on his own roster. We need to bring Colin Kaepernick in here. There's been this doubt about Russell Wilson.
Which is amazing in itself.
Russell Wilson announced, no, I'm a Hall of Fame quarterback yesterday. We knew he was good, but he was like, no, I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm as good as anybody that's played. That was
one of the wildest games I've ever seen.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun to watch,
it was
huh?
awesome. I did not expect Deshaun Watson to put on the type of performance that he did, especially being in a hostile environment where the decibel meter is just through the roof week in and week out. And then the Legion of Boom, he just destroyed them and did pretty much whatever he wanted to do. Obviously the turnovers was the difference in the game, and that's where you can give the edge to Russell Wilson because he limited his turnovers, and that made the difference in the game. But this kid continues to grow. I'm on the Deshaun Watson bandwagon. I believe in this kid. I believe this team is going to go.
He's got a lot of Carson Wentz. You saw Wentz on Monday and Deshaun.
And if you didn't believe it, like I was still, the jury was still out going into this game. I'm like, he's going to go up there. You asked me before that game, I'm like, yeah, he's going to get his butt kicked. Because I've played up there, and it's hard. That environment, that 12th man is real. And they come after you from all different angles on that defense. It's one of the best in the league. I think ranked the best in the league. So I was very surprised that he was able to go in there and have that type of success. And now going forward, the sky's the limit. And you've kind of been on that bandwagon. I've been hearing you talk about him. And I've kind of in the back of my mind going, I don't know yet. But after that performance, yes. And how about his coach in college? What was his college coach?
Dabo Swinney.
Dabo Swinney. I guess he's the one who said, look.
He's Michael Jordan.
All you guys that are going to pass on this kid, you're making a mistake. Yeah. Don't pass on this kid.
You know who passed on him yesterday? Bill O'Brien at the end of the game.
Incredible.
Third down call, yeah.
It blew. My head exploded. I was like, this dude done carried you all game, and now you're going to run the ball here instead of letting this dude win the game for you?
I thought this was interesting. Being that their owner had said something and that there was some pushback from players to management, I thought it was the perfect opportunity on the sideline to say, it's your game. It's a player's game today. Yeah. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but I thought that's a moment when the players don't trust ownership and say, guys, I trust you as players to win the game. He coached like a conservative coach. The quarterback whispered, I don't trust you.
It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Since you went there, I'm going to go all the way there. Mike, for me, I fell in love with the NFL when James Harris was the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. This is like a day I've been dreaming of. 2 black quarterbacks putting on a show like
clinic.
that. Yeah. That's one of the greatest 2 battles I've ever seen between quarterbacks, and I was like, this is the evolution of what Mike Vick started.
Yeah.
and James going all the way back to James Harris. I'm like, it's finally here.
Man, I wish I would have had one of those coordinators back in my day. I mean, it was a late start for me in terms of the passing game, but what I think this will do for Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien, they'll give him more run-pass option, just in case you get into a situation where it's 3rd and 4 and the game is on the line and you don't see something that you like. You know, put the ball in his hands and give him a chance to throw it.
Welcome back. Tony Gonzalez, Michael Vicker here again. Let's move to Washington, where the Cowboys got a much-needed win over the Redskins last night. Kind of sloppy, helping them stay alive in an NFC East being dominated by 7-1 Philadelphia. Dallas 2.5 back at 4-3, but has now won 2 in a row and still has 2 head-to-head matchups with Philly left on the schedule. Can't wait to see those. Whitlock, do you think Dallas can kind of scratch their way back and catch Philly?
Yeah, I think they have a chance. I mean, look, like you said, they play them twice. Obviously, the chance depends on making sure Ezekiel Elliott's available because as you saw again yesterday in sloppy, muddy conditions, Zeke was the key to that offense and remains the key to that offense. And just like you've been talking about for the last few weeks, Dallas has a real pass rush. I know that was a beat-up offensive line they played yesterday, but yeah, I think they have a chance. Anything can happen. Carson Wentz wasn't that great yesterday. They beat up a bad San Francisco team, but Carson Wentz was nothing special. So, yeah, I think Dallas has a shot.
Yeah, Philly's schedule is pretty easy the rest of the way. Their opponents have a winning percentage of less than 500. The one
Played
thing
Dallas twice.
I know. The one thing I worry about Dallas a little, I'm watching Deshaun Watson, I'm watching Wentz the last week. I like Dak Prescott.
It was thunder and rain all yesterday, Colin. Yeah. Cut him some slack.
Don't you think his ceiling's, is this what he is?
Now Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson just put on the greatest show on earth.
I know.
And now Dak can't do that.
Well,
What's the greatest
when
show?
a supermodel walks by, the model is only pretty. I looked at Dak and I'm like, is Dallas kind of one-dimensional? Can you put the franchise on Dak?
You're on the supermodel.
I like it. Hope your wife's
It works.
watching.
It works.
I mean, it's going to be on display in the next couple of weeks because toughest part of their schedule is upcoming with Kansas City, Atlanta, and then 2 more games with Washington are going to be deciding factors on if this team is really ready to make the comeback and make the run for the playoffs. So I don't know. I think they can do it with Dak. It was good to see the running game get going yesterday, and obviously it was because of the weather. But I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball consistently against Philadelphia, the way they stopped the run. So it's some things that they're going to have to overcome along the way in order to...
To his point, I think Dak will have to carry them in games. I don't know if...
If you're basing this off of yesterday, dude, it was pouring rain.
I grew up in Seattle. That's not an excuse. You live in it.
On real turf. It was pouring rain on real turf.
Goes both ways. But Dallas, yes, of course they got to change the NFL, and they're a good football team. They got really good football players. But Philly, for me, right now, I think that might be top 2, top 3 team in the NFL, if not the best. And Carson Wentz is playing some phenomenal football, second best quarterback in the league right now after Tom Brady. To me, at this point, as the NFL stock exchange,
Russell Wilson
as the NFL stock exchange goes up and down, I still like this kid over the last. And you deal with like the last 3 games. I think that's the body of work you go when you're judging these quarterbacks. Yeah. But the thing I'm concerned about with the Cowboys, they got the running game. How long is Ezekiel going to be there with the suspension? We'll see how that plays out. And then the communicate is Dez Bryant going to be a distraction going forward? Yesterday we saw him throwing up the 2, saying only 2 targets. That type of stuff comes. I know it is his character. It's what he's always done. Jason Garrett seems like he'd be able to handle it. But still, going forward, that kind of stuff trickles down in the locker room. And especially if Ezekiel isn't there, what are they going to do? How are they going to regroup and make sure that this
Dak and Dez had a confrontation on the sidelines at one point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Conversation.
It looked confrontational to me. You didn't think so?
It looked like what goes on between a quarterback and a wide receiver. Dez wasn't out of control with it. I will say this, as a Dez defender, have some of the time, I was concerned. It was all game 2, and the whole. I was like, hey man, y'all winning. It's raining. Don't you understand the situation? Zeke is carrying y'all. I didn't get where Dez was coming from, and so that is a bit of a concern. But to me, Dak can handle it. and he handled him well in that situation.
I don't want to be marginalized, the guy that doesn't like Dak. The more maybe it's because I'm seeing all these young quarterbacks, Wentz and Deshaun, and I'm watching Russell, and I'm like, I like Dak, but I just like Dak. And at some point, I think he'll have to carry this young team. I don't know. Russell Wilson, Wentz, Goff, that team. There's a lot. The NFC to me feels significantly better than the AFC.
Let's move to the NBA, where the two teams we all expect to be back in the finals, Cleveland and Golden State, are off to very rocky starts. The Cavs just lost their third straight, getting blown out by the Knicks, while Golden State lost to the Pistons and are now just 4-3 on the year. Cowherd, whose early season struggles are more alarming, Cavs or Warriors?
Well, I mean, the Cavs couldn't guard furniture. I mean, they're atrocious defensively, but I think a lot of it is they're veterans, they're dinged up, they don't have their rotations in, and they're old. They're an old team. So I know the Warriors have three great players. They're all averaging over 20. KD, Steph, and Clay. Draymond's still terrific. And I also, with Golden State, I have youth. I trust youth. Cleveland's old.
Let me tell you what's going on in the NBA that no one wants to talk about because all the media's in this conspiracy to convince you that the NFL is garbage and everybody in the NFL is racist. No one in the NBA cares about the regular season anymore. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Cleveland and Golden State do not care about the regular season.
You're right.
They're going to put up records that are probably 10 games in the win column less than what they should be because they don't care.
This is a good point.
And that's when I've watched them play, I've followed them, and I'm just telling you, they don't care. There's no urgency. There's no nothing. It's the regular season. They're disinterested.
I watched Washington blow out Golden State in the Bay this week on Friday. Yeah. I was like, Golden State brought no urgency. All right, welcome back. Joined now by Fox baseball analyst Nick Swisher, founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to that crazy game last night. Astros-Dodgers went back and forth in a 5.5-hour slugfest for the ages. Houston coming out on top 13-12 after 10 innings. The game produced several World Series records. Most runs ever in an extra inning game. Astros set a couple of home run records. 5 hours, 17 minutes, second longest World Series game ever. Okay, Whitlock, was that the best World Series game you've ever seen?
Other than shooting craps, there's nothing I want to do for 5 hours. And so I don't want to sound like a homer or a football homer or whatever, but I don't want to be Debbie Downer. It was exciting, but man, it felt a little bit like a softball game. And have you ever been to a friend's softball game after a while? You just like, hey, man, I want to get this. I thought we were drinking beer after this. I want to get to that. And so there's complaints about the ball being juiced, the ball being slick. It was exciting.
It was
5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it was most interrupted. Like, I've never been paralyzed by time. Like, good is good.
Right.
But 5.5 hours is too long for a wedding and a baseball game. Let's get to the cocktails. Let's get to the open bar.
You're right.
And truth here, I watched football. I fell asleep in the 7th inning to the 8th for like 40 minutes.
You got a good nap.
And I was just like, wow, there were so many pitching changes. And again, to me, the greatest games have the greatest players. Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs. Carlton Fisk. That is nothing against Joel Musgrave and Brad Peacock. But the greatest game is generally going to have a Jeter, Willie Mays,
right.
a
Clayton
Schilling.
Kershaw going a complete game.
Yeah, it's going to have stars.
I think the one thing about it is I think that our young stars in the game are really rising up to the occasions. The Altuves, the Carlos Correas, the Bregmans. I feel like just in general, even though it was a 5-hour game, it was a pretty dang interesting and exhilarating 5-hour game.
Highly rated 5 hours.
Definitely high. So I feel like for me, coming in here today, I'm pumping my chest. We feel that we have the best game going right now. And last night, with as crazy as this entire postseason has been, last night's game proves that more people are watching baseball than ever before.
I mean, Nick, the drama was off the charts. And, you mentioned football. I watched some of that Steelers game. It was boring. It was one 97-yard play. I switch over to baseball. It was a home run every at-bat. The thing that this series has, and what made that game last night so great, going into the 7th inning, every game in the series, it's been tied within 1 or 2 runs.
Right.
And that's the drama that this sport needs. And when everybody's just mashing, you know, I know they say offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. In baseballs, it's pitchers, right? Give me the home runs and the offense
too,
any
bro.
day of the week.
Balls in the
5
seats
hours out
all
of the
day.
Here's what's interesting about analytics. Even if the analytics said you have to pull LeBron James in the third quarter, is that good for the sport? Like if it's hockey, you've got to pull Sidney Crosby because the analytics say, I still contend sports is at its best with stars making plays late in games. Like Verlander. Do you want him out in the 6th inning analytically? I want him in the 8th even if he's struggling. So analytics, while the pocket protector guys love it, it is reducing a lot of star players to numbers. I still contend A-Rod today, maybe the most popular baseball name. I mean, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's crushing. I feel like just in general, the analytics are taking away the human element of the game.
I do.
No doubt about it. The one thing the analytics cannot, play any place for is what you have in here. Your personality, how you produce under pressure, things like that. It's like during the regular season, all this stuff works. All these numbers are great because we're playing in San Diego in June, and there's 4,000 people at the game. You know what I mean?
Well,
now,
Nick,
Hold on,
great
though.
point.
We're getting a little far, Shay, because I don't think analytics, if there was a problem last night, it wasn't about analytics.
28 trips to the mound.
I get
14
that.
pitchers used.
Yeah.
I get, but it's about the complaints to me about, are they using any different ball? Has it been slicked up? Is it harder for the pitchers to control? Why are so many balls going out of the park? It undermines or brings into question the integrity. Is this the same game?
If I asked you today, as of right now, is baseball more exciting than ever?
Unequivocally, Whitlock.
Yeah, I mean, this.
So then baseball's winning.
The
We are gaining
craziness of it, yeah.
fans. And I feel like just in general, whether the balls are slick or whether they're juiced, the way balls are going out of the ballpark, they should have done this when I was still playing. Like, this is a fun game. Like, people are excited to go to the ballpark and watch our young stars. And by the way, the Houston Astros have been so captivating. They have attracted just the hearts of so many people across this world.
Nick told
in
me
this
behind
battle.
the scenes last week that Jose Altuve could have a Steph Curry type impact on baseball because he's 5'6", and he's got a great story. He was the Astros. He tried out for them when he was 16 in Venezuela, and they said, "No, go home. You're too short." Right? He comes back the next day. I'm going to make this team, and they sign him. Like this Altuve kid is something special.
The one thing I'll say, and this is a different topic, but there is a little bit of this, whether it's Trump or Kaepernick, there's a little bit of a pushback on the NFL. Houston and Los Angeles. Now, these are big, diverse cities where many people in those cities didn't grow up in our American sports culture. They're getting over 50 shares. Now, let me put that's a bigger share in LA than the Super Bowl. That's a bigger share than the Lakers. There is a little bit of a baseball renaissance now. Youth numbers are up because moms don't want their kids to be tackled. It does feel like baseball, there's a little bit of a, listen, you know how it is, Jason. This stuff roller coasters. The NBA was hot, it died.
Right,
it's up,
right,
it's
right.
down. It does feel like trees don't grow to the sky, football's pulling back, and for whatever reasons, kids are playing more baseball.
Well, hey,
therefore, they're watching with their dads more baseball. It feels like baseball's moving up.
I'm fine with those
can't
moms
disagree
saying
with
I don't
that.
want my kids being hit. Come on over to our sport, y'all. We'll take you, man. We need more Aaron Judges in our game.
Well, there's at least one guy who wasn't a fan of all that offense last night, Clayton Kershaw. After a strong game one, the Dodgers ace had some more playoff struggles, giving up 6 runs and getting run from the game before finishing the 5th inning. Kershaw has now given up the most home runs ever in a single postseason. Cowherd, did Kershaw's legacy take a big hit last night?
It took another hit. This is the worst part about sports. This is where I don't like being a sportscaster. When you talk about all-time greats, it's like talking about supermodels. They're all amazing, but one has maybe a pimple, and so she's not quite as super as the other supermodel. Clayton Kershaw's my Sandy Koufax. But the reality is, when you get into legend categories, Elway versus Brady, we have to nitpick. So yes, if you look at the all-time Dodger greats, he's got the most losses, the highest ERA. And that stinks as a sportscaster.
Right.
Because We're comparing supermodels. I mean, come on.
All these guys are Hall of Fame guys. It's hard to, you can't compare Hall of Fame guys to what we're talking about. It's tough. These guys are just better than most.
But aren't those different eras, Nick? I mean, you look at Sandy Koufax. How many teams were in the league? Like, I mean, how many great players were there back in the day? I just think, if anything, this is a ding on Kershaw. You can't crush him for this. And remember, he can still come back in Game 7 if they get there and redeem himself.
Right.
But, Colin, how much of this should we factor in the juiced ball era? I saw a stat 3 years ago, there were 2,000 less home runs hit in the regular season. I'm not making that up.
6,105 hit on the season. That's
I don't know how you memorize that, but that's incredible. And seriously,
I got my
like
glasses
Kershaw,
on.
at some point, we have to say, like, listen, this is a different era all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And he's only, 29 years old.
sir.
Like,
Also, think about this. When we grew up, baseball players didn't lift. Guys are jacked now. Like when you and I, in the 70s, baseball players were skinny.
Oh, my dad was like, don't lift weights. You won't be able to comb your hair and the whole nine.
Everybody's jacked
True.
now.
Yeah.
Again, Kershaw is one World Series ring away from making all of this mute.
I think you're right.
And again, yes, it will be like he was a phenomenal regular season pitcher who struggled in the postseason, but he won a World Series.
Right.
No
You
one
would let it
cares.
slide.
His greatness is, and McIntyre, I think, makes the correct point. Game 7, it's too early to start talking about dings to legacy. Game 7, if it gets to a Game 7, that will determine whether this is a small ding to his legacy.
By the way, LeBron, there was a little bit of a narrative for about 7, 8 years. 8, he's not clutch. And then he got to a final. Then after Dallas. Right. So, I mean, you can turn a legacy.
what do you think about a Peyton Manning comparison? Awesome in the regular season, couldn't get by
Until the
Belichick.
end.
Like a Dan Marino.
And then Dan Marino as well. But Peyton could never get over the hump and win that Super Bowl. Then he wins it. Peyton, all-time great.
You
And he's on all the commercials.
Yes,
and he's
it's
crushing
coming,
the
Clayton. It's coming.
You love Magic Johnson. He was Tragic Johnson. Remember that
Won
early?
his first title, though, but yes, he did.
But very early, Magic was can't shoot, clunky.
John Elway lost his first 2 Super Bowls. Weren't his fault. He's the greatest. He's the greatest.
Got a running
first
back.
3 Super
Yeah,
Bowls. I'm
crushed,
sorry.
yeah.
First 3 Super Bowls.
Terrell
Greatest
Davis had something
quarterback
to say
ever.
about
Yeah,
that.
a little something to
Little
carry.
something. But when you saw Clayton Kershaw sitting on the bench last night when
Yeah.
he was taken after the game and he was down, it just looked like he was trying to figure some things out. I think for him, this is something that he definitely needs to come back on because obviously right now the Dodgers are in a tough position, having to win 2.
To back up Colin, you think they pulled him a little early? I mean, come on.
Well, we talked about analytics all the time. By the way, I would much rather take a Clayton Kershaw out there on the mound at 80%
There you go.
than anybody else they have.
Thank you.
Because, like you said, you want your stars in the game. By the way, if I'm going up, hey, why did you keep him in? Because he's my best pitcher. He's the best player I have on my team. That's why I want him in there, whether he's struggling or not. But to have a 4-run lead and to lose it as fast as he did.
But if Verlander tomorrow, you're the manager of Houston, gives up 7 hits and 5 runs through 5, would you pull him? I wouldn't. Bullpen shot.
The Houston
No, I mean
Bulls-
seriously.
Who's the Houston Game 7
Somebody needs a
starter?
break.
Like,
So,
seriously,
but those are gaudy numbers. 5 runs, 7 hits through 5. I'd keep Verlander in. There's a reason he starts and the middle reliever doesn't.
There used to be a reason. They're trying to eliminate that reason.
Totally.